In 2022, we are back. I am looking at the faces of the men that I love. We have Peter Kalos. We've got Dennis Manahan.
Hello, in the house.
In the house. I reckon we got to do an introduction like wrestling style with you almost every time, Dennis, because that starts to fire me up. Gentlemen, how have you been? I've missed your faces.
It's been a good 6 months at least, I'm gathering.
Yeah, it's close to. Look, I think we recorded our last podcast in November, maybe. I was unemployed then.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it was about that time.
Yeah.
And you had Christmas, you had New Year's. I had a birthday. I was 41.
Happy birthday.
Baby.
Baby. And, you know, we've all been enjoying our summer. We you know, just like Seinfeld, during summer, nothing happens. You know,
exactly.
Everything happens in winter.
Yeah.
Dennis, what have you been up to?
I was very, very flat out through January. I was doing two shows. I was doing Alice in Wonderland with the Strange Shakespeare Company, which I do every year. But I was also understudying two roles in Comedy of Errors with the Strange Shakespeare Company. So I had full on days. I had an 8:30 a.m. call in the city at the Athenaeum, 2 high energy kid shows, then straight over to the Botanical Gardens to be there for the shows until about 10:30 at night for Comedy of Errors. So it was big days. And I ended up going on once for COVID. And I went on for the entire final week of the production. So I got a decent run in of that show. It made it worthwhile, but it was hectic. And then I had a break, so I drove north to see my folks. Just as it was raining and the northern rivers of New South Wales were going under, I was driving into the heart of the storm.
Perfect timing.
So that was my summer holiday. I was in Grafton, so that didn't go under. The water got to 7.7 meters and it goes over the levee at 7.95. So it came close, but it didn't. So I had a break, and then I've just been flat out doing my bread and butter work, shooting a film last weekend.
Awesome. What's the film?
It was all night shoots. It was a crazy horror film about, you know, those flappy kind of inflatable people at car yards and things. It was one of those. It was like sentient, and I was the guardian of the car yard, and I was playing a car thief. That
I worked as a car salesman for about 2 years.
I
remember that.
Yeah, I try and forget it, but yes, we remember.
But it was an interesting lesson. It was lots of fun. Night 2 was at a Wreckers, which was like my chop shop, where I brought the car back to take it apart. And, you know, there was a bit of setup and there was a bit of rain and stuff. And they're like, I was up in the office getting makeup done. They were like, oh, we're going to be a while, so just wait up here. And when you're told that, you can do that. But I went down and I didn't wait up there. I went down and I had to take parts out of the car, but we couldn't actually take the car apart because it was a car next door hire car that they didn't know was in a film. So we couldn't take it apart. So I just had to find bits to put in it, but rather than play act, I kind of, I went around, I went, this bolt would go here and this is here. So here's specifically exactly what I'm going to do. Like, it wasn't the sort of film where I spent 6 months learning how to take a car apart, but at least I could be a bit specific and make it my space. Go, okay, when I take them out, where do I put them? I'll put them on this trolley. And my guy was kind of dirty, but really meticulous. So I got the toolbox and organized my tools, and it was just a really good lesson in don't just sit upstairs and talk to the makeup person, like do something. Cause it really got me into that role. Like, my hands got really greasy. I got my hands on a lot of car parts, and I filled it around under the bonnet, seeing where I would put things. And, I found a trolley. I rearranged the space, make it your own.
Nice. Yeah. By the way, we'll pick up on make it your own, but nothing to do with acting. Yeah. But one of my favorite car robbing stories ever happened in LA. And a friend of mine, he lived on the 6th apartment, and the elevator was really, really low, right? This was in downtown LA. And what would happen is like, he'd be on the sixth floor and you could see his cars parked down below. One day they stole the battery. So he went out, replaced the battery. A week later or 2 weeks later, they stole the alternator, went back, replaced the alternator. Over a period of 7 or 8 weeks, they stole little bits and pieces. And then he, of course, replaced everything. When the car was working well, it was quiet. A week later, they stole the whole car because they were looking to see what needs to be fixed. And they would take that, right? And he said he could see them, but the elevator was so slow that he couldn't do shit about it. He could yell at them, leave my car alone. And they figured, once the car's fixed, we'll take it. That is genius car thief. You know what I'm saying?
That is easily the most impressive car thief story I've ever heard in my life.
Story.
Brilliant.
And then talk about making it your own, and here we are.
Well, here we are combining Pete's stories with Dennis' stories. We're talking about how to create the Mona Lisa in your performance. And Dennis, you were doing that in a way, and Pete, your robbers were doing that in a way.
They took a simple scene of stealing a car and made it their own.
And they saw everything that was wrong. They got it all fixed at a really, really cheap price from someone else. And then they got a perfect car, didn't they? A very unique, reliable car. What we're talking about today, people, is all about making your performance unique. And it does actually touch on what Dennis was saying before. And you have a character. How simple was the character on script, Dennis?
The character was pretty simple. The character, there's no dialogue, and I was the only actor in the film. And it's a car thief that then gets seduced and possessed and then absorbed by this demon flappy creature. But I did have a lot of discussion with the director about, you know, what this guy's like and his background and how he got into this life. And, you know, so I knew a bit of nuance about him. And where he was coming from, which was important. It actually did inform the way the character reacted in a lot of situations.
But not a lot of people would go into that role and do what you did. Most people would sit with makeup people, would sit with other people and just letting the time pass instead of using the time like you're supposed to.
And as I said to the director, I went, well, I'll do this and work this out. Just like, you got to pick your roles. Like, learning how to take a car apart, an engine apart, spending a year doing it would have been useless. It's not needed for that film.
Right.
But you got to do enough so it doesn't look like play acting. So it doesn't look like, oh, he's just doing that. He hasn't even got a wrench. Oh, he's just picked up. You know, you can do enough. And play acting's the term I used, is you want it to look real. You don't want it to look like play acting. So you mightn't be doing exactly what a car thief would do, but you want to look like you're doing something specific. You know, you're taking this bolt out of here so that I can turn this way, and I can take this out and I can take that off. And sometimes you can't be real. Like, I did do some research, and the first thing you would take off would be the headlights, because they're easy and they're expensive. But that didn't suit what we were trying to shoot. Like, we wanted to be in the engine, you know, we needed for what we were getting. So it's always a balance. It's always a, you know, you're balancing those elements of it's almost like the director and the cinematographer. You know, the director's telling the story and the cinematographer wants to make beautiful pictures. And sometimes the story can suffer if you go too much, if you sacrifice it to the cinematography. And if you can do both, it's great, but you've got to kind of walk that line. I mean, there was a moment where I had to turn, and just for lighting, they went, "Can you turn that way?" And I'm like, well, no. And it was just a simple physical thing, but I'm like, I've been startled. I've looked this way. I've got to look behind me. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to swivel all the other way around. So sometimes you do have to, which I initially was asked to do, but sometimes you do have to put your foot down and go, no, action, that might look good, but action wise, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Pete, most of the time when people usually arrive at the lab, or even, you know, I remember the first time I did a couple of auditions there, you take something off the script and you just go to the first idea just naturally. And that's what an untrained actor does. They go to the first idea and they just usually land on it, and maybe the second or third, and usually land on that. Or maybe they don't have any preparation whatsoever and they're just, you know.
Or most do what most do is they memorize their lines. They go, I've got the lines in the body, I feel good. And then they turn up and they go to the poor director, well, tell me what to do. And the director's like, I got to worry about the budget, the location, the time, the this, the that, the lenses. And where if you give them your work, a good director will go, let me see it. And then they worry about what to shoot. You know?
I've got to be careful because I tend to be the opposite. I tend to be going to the director, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, that's what we want. Ironic, but that's what we want. You know, look, I tell people this. If I had 10 scripts and I gave them to 10 different actors, they should all be unique in a sense of each one of those actors has their own understanding and experience of that character. And that's what we want. We don't want 10 actors doing exactly the same thing, because then, you know, as I've said in the past, our room as actors to express our vision is so limited because you've got the script, you're getting told what to do, you're getting told what the character's doing, you know what I'm saying? And then you've got a director that's got a vision, which we have to respect, and we'll talk about that soon. So then when it comes time to doing it, where does your voice fit? And we want that voice, especially in America, the good directors, they want to see your version of that character. You know what I'm saying? Because there's nothing worse than watching someone showreel, for instance, when they do a monologue that's been in the film and they do it exactly like what's in the film. And they go, well, what's the point of that? I've already seen that. You know what I'm saying? Now you're just showing me that you can mimic an actor. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, this is the Mona Lisa. This is a replica. No one gives a shit about the replica. You know what I'm saying? We want, and keeping in mind, if you audition, they haven't even shot the film yet. We genuinely want your voice, your vision of that character. And if we don't get it, you are literally giving that away. It's no longer your work. You become a puppet. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't sustain a career. You know, once again, keep in mind, like I tell people, it has to be your vision based on, does it make sense for the script? Is it supported by the script? My choice. Is it supported by that character? You know what I'm saying? If you've got those two lined up, then you're working at a whole other level. But to turn up and just say, tell me what to do and how to do it is like giving it away. And great actors don't work like that. Great directors don't work like that. You know what I'm saying?
There's no creativity there for the actor if all they're doing is being, you know, a puppet, or if they're just being told what to do constantly. Where's their imagination from within? Where is it coming from?
That's
it.
You know,
and if it's coming from the outside world where someone's telling the other person how to do it. I mean, Dennis, I'm sure that you've been on lots of films like myself where you have sometimes a director, sometimes, you know, someone from the crew, either, you know, a DOP saying, do it this way, do it that way. And you know what? I think my biggest flaw within the career that I had was not having the balls. I tell you the truth, I was either on one spectrum where I didn't have the balls, or in another spectrum, just not flexible. And I think you have to be in the middle, as you said, Pete, because you got to be serving the script. You got to be serving the director's vision. And I mean, at the same time, we are watching a visual aspect. So you do want it to look good. If it doesn't necessarily look good, even though that's sort of juxtaposed to what you were saying before, Dennis, but you had a reason that actually made absolute sense. No one turns a full circle unless they're someone like me and they're dancing in the middle of the street because they've got a song in their head or something like that. But, you know, besides from that, you're absolutely right. You need to have that courage.
Yeah, but also you've got to try and work with people. You can't just be, and you, another trap you can fall into as a young actor getting out there is to go, oh, it's my way or the highway. Well, no, you're not the director.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
And so if you can turn if it doesn't matter, if it's not really going to affect your performance and the story and where you're at, to turn a different way so the light's better, fucking turn that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you can cheat this over here and do it over here, even though you weren't standing there before because the light's better, then move over there. Like,
exactly.
You know, don't be a dick and fight on everything. You've got to
and
pick your battles.
People a lot of times misconstrue what we say by that, you know, to have your voice in it. You negotiate, you know, and ultimately,
there's no ego.
Stella Adler used to say, no one's above the script. If it makes sense for the script and it's supported, then you and a good director can go, hey, let's explore this together. You know what I'm saying? Let's explore this and remind everyone there's no ego here. Does it make sense for the script? Does the character fit that? And if you can do it, unless there's an actual practical reason, like if I do this and you can't, great. But then you negotiate that. And that's what a good actor-director relationship is about. You know what I'm saying? Right? You find that communication within there, but it's really, truly is about getting inside the head of that particular character. You know, I'll give you a quick example. You all know Jimmy Shine, right?
Yes.
The scene. For those that don't know it, it's a guy, he's dead broke, he's in his New York apartment, and he picks up the phone and he says something like, on the third stroke, you will be disconnected, right? That's in the script now. And he has to mimic his voice to match the recording that when you called the time in New York, or, you know, the phone service, it would say on a third stroke, it will be disconnected. You would say, you know, the time is 11:30, whatever, you know what I'm saying, right? So now that's in the script, he has to mimic that voice perfectly so that if a bill collector called, they would assume they got the wrong number. You with me? That's in the script. And I gave this example. Imagine if my Jimmy Shine was lazy, like if I was doing Jimmy Shine. Instead of me trying to mimic that voice, which has to convince someone calling that they've got that recording, my version of Jimmy Shine could record it on a cassette, because this took place back when they had cassettes. And when the phone came in, I would push play on the cassette and whoever called would hear that. Now, that's not in the script. Does it make sense for the character? Yes, it does. Am I doing it to show and tell? No, I would be doing it because my Jimmy Shine can't get the language down perfectly to match that. And it's not changing the direction of the story. You know what I'm saying? So you can bring that in, and in a sense, that makes your Jimmy great. And I use Jimmy Shine because I remember when Dustin Hoffman, I spoke to someone who had seen both Dustin Hoffman do it and Marlon Brando do it. And he said when Dustin Hoffman did it, he wore a fake fur on his chest because it made him feel like a man, you know, Tom Selleck kind of guy, right? That's not in the script, but it makes sense for Jimmy. And apparently Dustin Hoffman was talking like a machine gun, you know, because he's very lonely, very desperate. Hey, Rosie, Rosie, you know what I'm saying? When Marlon Brando did it, he didn't say a freaking word because in his mind, Jimmy's depressed, and he is depressed. He's suicidal. And Marlon Brando just sat there, not saying a word. And then the poor actress was doing her lines, but working with Marlon to go, Jimmy, talk to me. Jimmy, I need my $10 and all that kind of stuff. And everyone that saw both productions said they both worked. And they were both honest to the script. And they were both two artist interpretations of that character. There was nothing similar with either of them, but they were both honest. And I thought that's what it's about. Your voice in that character, in that script, you know what I'm saying? And with a good director, you know, and our vision of that character has to make sense within the director's vision, but a good director will make that work. You know what I'm saying? You go, this is my version, and a good director will go, yep, let's tweak that. Yes, let's use the cassette recording or not. You know what I'm saying? But at least bring it up and say, let's try this, let's try that. You know what I'm saying, right? If you don't bring it up, also, a good director wants that, because imagine you got 20 characters, at least one actor gives you 2 or 3 different choices, and you go, yep, let's go with the second one. So the director can focus on other things. There's nothing worse than going, tell me what to do. And the poor director goes, oh my God, I don't have time for this right now. Or if he does, they won't have the depth of your character. You know what I'm saying? Because you should have spent more time with them. So I tell actors, you don't want to lose that. The fine line with all that is you're not doing it to be a peacock. You're not doing it to impress anyone or to be funny. That's borderline, you know, you're performing for the audience. You know,
and again, that is ego.
Yeah, you're gonna be truthful to the character, and of course have the capacity to deliver that. No good saying I think this, and then you can't do it. You know.
Yeah, and to actually have that capacity where you're doing all these things all at once, aren't you? You're remembering lines. You are trying to be honest with yourself. You're trying to be honest with the character. You're trying to be in the best light if they're telling you. It's a whole bunch of things to take in your mind. And then you have to pretend like all of that isn't there. And you are in a life, you are in a character, you are in a moment, and no one is watching. And that is the tough thing to do.
And then you got to take the other actor in, how they respond, and make sure you're in communication with that. And then, you know, like hearing it for the first time, not mimicking, that's a lot of work. That's why they say acting is very hard work. You know what I'm saying? Stella used to say, you know, it's harder than brain surgery. And it is in that respect, you know, because you got to be totally in the moment, you know, with all that. And by the way, it's funny what you said earlier, I think was Luke, where he said, you know, you got someone saying, do it this way, do it this way. The best thing with this, and I always tell people this, is only the director should give you their opinion about your work. Only the director. It's their vision. I don't want the hair and makeup person saying, I think that was funny, because now I'm trying to impress them, or I think this, or I think that. You get so confused. We just want the director only.
Yeah, that was a story that was off air. So I was saying how I did a shoot and I had like 3 or 4 people telling me what to do.
You'd go crazy
on every single take, and it wasn't authentic. It was a horrible performance, and I hope you see it soon. For me, it was frustrating for me, because I mean, I don't really act anymore. I only really took the job just so I can get some money, and you know, my heart wasn't in it. I did no preparation or anything like that. Totally opposite to what we're talking about and what the podcast stands for. But one of the frustrating things that sort of reminded me, like, just all the things that are frustrating about the industry here, and the director should have really just stepped in and said, hey, just me. But he didn't.
Exactly. That's why they're a director, because they're directing the flow of everything. You know what I'm saying? And if they don't communicate that vision, if they don't communicate their thoughts, then as actors, we're literally all over the place. That's why it's called directing. Guide me. You know what I'm saying? Tell me, you know, what direction to go in, you know, which really helps us then do it. You know what I'm saying? All right.
So how do you find those moments? How do you find those moments and satisfy everyone all at the same time?
Well, first of all, I think it's like what Dennis said. You got to pick your battles also. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit there fighting every single scene. Otherwise, it'll be a 50-hour movie. You know what I'm saying? Right? Pick your battles, but make sure you always argue the script. If there's any indication that character does a certain way or a certain thing, then go, hey, look at this quality. It's in the script. So let's keep going with that quality. You know what I'm saying? All right. And put it in there. And sometimes also I tell people it helps if you think your character is going to do something, then bring it up during rehearsal. You know what I'm saying? To go, hey, let me try this thing about the cassette, for instance, for Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? And then you fermented it to some degree. You know what I'm saying? There's no time to ferment it on a set, but if you've done it on your own, you can bring it to a good director, you know, and negotiate with them. Same as outfits, you know. It's not arguing with wardrobe people, because I know a lot of people say, you know, don't tell me how to do my job. It's like, yeah, but it's my character and I've done my research, and show them why, what you found, you know. I remember when they did Goodfellas, the whole thing with the collar. You know, there was a guy named Bruno, and used to be De Niro's stylist and stuff. And they're walking New York, and they literally saw a mobster wearing those kind of collars, and they bought it to Scorsese, and that was it. Marty said, let's go with it. And it became the icon of, you know, the image of that film. Do you know what I'm saying? But they were open to it. Do you know what I'm saying? Everyone's open to great ideas, everyone. And an open-minded director would have that, you know, but that's the director's job, to guide people and share that vision. And then our choices can fit within that vision, you know. Not easy to do. That's why there's not, you know, 10,000 Brandos walking around.
And that's why there's only one Mona Lisa.
Exactly. Very, very, yeah. It's easy to copy, but the original thought has to be there, you know, that beautiful moment, you know. And now also keep in mind, when something happens in the moment and you keep the character in mind, then you go with it. And that's what they call that, you know, catching lightning in the bottle. You can't plan that, you know.
So what do you do if you discover something that works and you feel is right, and you're getting shut down by the director?
I would negotiate. I would say, listen, this is a short film. I'm not getting paid. I'm sacrificing my week. Can we do one take for you and one take for me? And ultimately say, you decide, but let's do it. Do you know what I'm saying? And remind them, if the scene doesn't work out, we all go down together. There should be no ego there. Say, guys, it's not about ego. I'm trying to respect your vision. Please respect my choice for this character. Here it is. It's supported by the script, and let's try it, you know. And by the way, those directors don't usually last too long anyway. Google two things after you finish watching our podcast: how to piss off Robert De Niro in 15 seconds. And the other one is William Shatner arguing with a director or something like that.
Oh, that's gold. That's the he's doing a voiceover. Someone's
Correct.
trying to direct him in a voiceover, and it's
gold because
Shatner.
The director tells William Shatner how to do it, and not just that, William Shatner nails it. You know, but they argue. It's called creative differences. You have to, you know, it's not taking it personally. That's where people get in trouble. It's not taking it personally, man. It's our ideas together.
Yeah,
if we share ideas, we could go to places we're not even aware of, you know.
I can say that I am very, very guilty of taking things personal in my moments of acting, where, especially if you do get cast on something important where you are the lead and there's lots of money and you get paid lots of money for it, that's another avenue for your ego to rise up, and you keep on stating that you're doing something and you feel like you're doing it right, but you're not actually, whether you're doing it right or wrong. It's about the script, but also there doesn't need to be a right or wrong way. There just needs to be exploration and discovery.
You're exploring the process. You're exploring you're going on a journey together. And I think if you have open-minded directors and open-minded actors with capacity, which is very important, because like I said, it's no good me telling a director, I imagine doing a triple somersault if I can't do the freaking thing. You know what I'm saying? You have to have capacity. But what happens is I find you end up finding something that none of you saw going into it. That exploration of the process and the character and the moment between two characters is gold. You know, because otherwise, if we have a blocked off vision of, I have this vision, and then great, you've already put a lid on the work. There's no imagination now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I said, and also you got to fight your battles. Not every single scene, you know, like Dennis said, pick your battles. If it's the critical scene, then you got to know I'm fighting for that one. You know, so ego has to step aside.
How important is developing this sort of moment for your character in terms of relationships with other people as well in the film? Thanks. I know it's a big question, but sometimes when we're working, we're worried about ourselves and how we are acting, but you got to remember, as you said before, there's another person there.
Yeah.
So you have to work on that relationship just as much as you're working on the relationship of yourself, particularly if it is some sort of romantic scene, if these people are supposed to be falling in love, if you have a father or, you know, a sibling or something like that. They're all different sort of relationships. And the relationship of that person in that character is unique. The relationship that you have with every single person you have in your life is
look
unique.
At us, if each one of us was to do a scene, just two of us, it was me and Luke, or me and Dennis, or Dennis and Luke, they would be completely different. You know what I'm saying? We would take each other in, you know. This is why if you have a good actor and another good actor, magic can happen. You know what I'm saying? But it takes open-mindedness and understanding of the character ultimately, you know.
And just to follow up on your example before with Jimmy Shine, I believe you did Jimmy Shine too as well, didn't you, Dennis?
Yeah, I did Jimmy Shine.
I think everyone
Yeah,
at the
and
lab's done it.
yeah. Our Jimmy Shines were very, very different.
Very
We were
different.
very, very different. Very, very different. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching you. And then also seeing what you brought to the table. But also, I mean, I was in the midst of training then, and I was wise enough to understand that that's your Jimmy Shine. I don't try and take your Jimmy Shine, because that doesn't work, does it?
That's his Jimmy. Exactly. That's his Jimmy Shine. You know,
Mm.
I remember like Dennis did it. Dean Guinera, right? And he put tape on his back. So his Jimmy had back problems, and he was hysterical. It worked. And I think one of the most, not simplest, minimalist choices were Matt Trubbiani and Laura Gissing. They did it. And it was just them on stage, a mattress, underwear. She had underwear and a bra. And you felt like these people were at the bottom of the world, and they were so lonely that they just had each other. And it was just beautiful to watch. You really got that raw essence of two human beings so desperate for companionship. And you felt that. No, nothing else. You know, there's other people running around everywhere, and you go, wow, they were just there. Complete different versions. And they're all brilliant. They really all have been. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, like I said, depends on that. By the way, see, that's where a good director will go, let's explore it before we get into it. And then you know what you've agreed on as far as choices. You know, by the way, especially in America, the Screen Actors Guild, which is brilliant, right? Absolute one of the best, best unions for acting, that you do have a mountain of contracts. And a lot of that negotiation in contracts is who's got the creative voice. You know what I'm saying? So going into it, if it's a Peter Kalos film written and directed by Peter Kalos, Peter has a big voice. If it's a studio and they hired me, they call it a director for hire, then you kind of, if it's a franchise, you go along with that and everyone knows this is the vision. You know what I'm saying? Right? A good director and a good actor can find equal voicing. So one worries about the character, the other one worries about the lighting and the direct and the camera and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I think the better communication you have between the actor director, the more gold you'll find. You know what I'm saying? All right. And there is massive contracts, that they have to say who's got the final say in their scene, right? That's part of it. Sometimes it's a director. Sometimes if you're a famous actor, it's in your contract. I get final cut.
How would an actor attempt to even discover these things if they're working at home by themselves with no feedback? I mean, what should they be doing?
It's called, sometimes I think we just don't do it enough. So if you don't do it enough, then you don't even know your own voice. If you do this enough, and you're working on characters enough, you find your own ringtone. I really think you find your own kind of ringtone and you know it. And then does this ring? A very good teacher of mine said, it's not being natural. Natural is me being comfortable in front of the camera. Is it honest and truthful to that character? Ultimately, that's what we're looking for. Honesty and truthful representation of that character. You know what I'm saying? And exploration of it. And that's your own ringtone. It comes by doing it again and again, having the capacity in your body, doing your own research, finding those people. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? And just research and then having it in the body and be able to get away with it and walk with it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Not to name drop. I always remember Martin Landau when he was working on Bela Lugosi. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he used to walk down the streets and go, hello, my friend, this is Marty, Bella, how are you? And he'd just talk like that. But then he'd ask you, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? You know what I'm saying? Right? And once again, I remember when I first met De Niro, it was on a set and he said, what did you think? And I thought, fuck, are you kidding me? You're asking me what I think? And I said, I liked it. And he said to me, my mom can say the same thing. What did you genuinely think as an actor? And I said, why are you asking me? He goes, I need to, someone I can trust. You've gone to school, you've studied. Tell me in your own knowledge, what do you think of that take? You know what I'm saying? And they want that. They have people that they trust, you know what I'm saying, to be able to negotiate what that. It's good to have a good ringtone because we're busy doing. Al Pacino once said, "We're busy doing. We need a good director to see what we're doing and guide us." I'll shut up.
So, Dennis, when you usually approach a character, how do you approach it to get in that space where you start to ask questions as you were doing before around the car? What do you write it down on the script? Is it just natural now that you read it and you make these choices, in your mind? How does that normally come about?
I don't know. Sometimes I can make notes, but more it's again, the whole process is for me different depending on the project. Like you'll have a
Dennis,
different.
can you talk about Nathan Loves Ricky Martin? Because that was an amazing
that was
body
amazing.
work.
Well, that's a good example. I mean,
how did it start? Was it the physical thing first? Was it what? How did you?
Well, I think the heart of Nathan was the heart of the character that I'd been working on at the lab, even though it was very different. The physicality, the disability was very different, but the kind of spirit of the character was the same. And it was trying to find that spirit. And then it was specifically doing a lot of research and a lot of sitting in the wheelchair and finding that disability, finding how that would be in the chair. I mean, I can't actually experience that because I'm able-bodied, but to get as close as possible, there's just that physical exploration. But then there's just finding the spirit of the character, because I think that's what made that character, was that it was a very kind of joyful and positive person, and it was really finding those two things. And you don't want to play the physicality, you don't want to play the disability. So the disability is something that the person is trying to overcome. They're living their life, and with that in mind. So for that, I did do a lot of research, and then I went to the audition in the chair with a couple of guys.
I still remember that,
pushing me. And then for a couple of years, I'd never met them out of character. Always, I'd even rehearsals, I'd set myself up in the chair, text them I'm there, throw my phone in the car, lock the car, and then they just come find me and bring me to the rehearsal. Or the worst thing was when, after it was done, and I got a message going, I should say beforehand, they did try and call me. Mm-hmm. And I texted and I set the boundaries. I went, yeah, look, let's not talk. I'm fine for you to text, or if you've got direction, just email me and I'll email you. But let's just do it like that.
Because then you break that chemistry,
Yeah. And I really, and people really believed they knew Nathan, and they didn't know me at all. And that was something that was important for that project. But afterwards, I got a message saying, "Oh, we need to do some ADR," and I'm like, "Oh my God,
yeah,
what do I do?" And at the end of the day, I'm like, I can't just go in there and make Nathan noises. Like, it's not going to work. And that's not my relationship with the director and writer, etc. So I got in the full outfit. I bought the wheelchair. I set myself up. I texted them. I was there, threw my phone in the car, locked the car, and they came and found me and got me in. And it was a really tight studio. Like, they got me into the front, but to get me into the actual studio, it wasn't easy in the chair. But I was just still in character.
They must have been cursing all the way.
I was still in character because it's just, for that, I had to do it. But some people misunderstand and think you have to do that for every role. If you do that, that's what you do. But
yeah, look,
I wouldn't do that for every role. But for that role, it was important. So the process is different. And
also the other character you completely blew us all away on was Sasha in what's it called?
Antigone in New York.
Antigone. Now I've known you for a good 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I remember you doing Sasha, and I remember you doing Ricky. And it was a completely different, completely different people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful work.
Interesting. Thanks, man. It's interesting.
Yeah. Now that was. Look, if you put those two people together,
yeah,
they're not the same person. You know what I'm saying? And that took a long time too to get into Sasha. Once you found him, but you had him.
So yeah, well, he came together quite late. I don't think I had him till quite late, and I don't think I had the accent. It came with the accent as well, and I think everything. There was a lot of work, and it was very long, but I think it really came together quite late. Quite in the final month out from the production, I feel like it really came together.
And by the way, it's interesting, Dennis said, because there's no actual structure to that. It kind of just, there's no rule as to what to explore, how to explore, when it falls together or apart. That just happens. That's just by trial and error. Do you know what I'm saying? You stay with it, and you find these little gems. Sometimes the gems come right away. Sometimes they come during, I remember we read, what was it? Al Pacino said on the 83rd performance of some play, he found the character. And I always remember going, well, the first 82 performances got fucked. But that's how long it took him, 83 performances. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? So it's a gut feeling at the end of the day, and it should be your gut feeling, you know.
But
who knows what you're going to do, but find something. And even if it's a simple physical thing. I remember Steve Arriagata, who directed Nathan Loves Ricky Martin, and I'm collaborating with on projects as we speak. He had a project which didn't come off because we didn't get the funding, which was a caveman film shooting in I can't even remember where it was. It's some incredible cave we would have to helicopter into. But I'm like, okay, I've probably got 6 months to a year. How do I become a caveman? And so I didn't know, but the first thing I did, I went, okay, I'm just going to stop wearing shoes to develop caveman feet, because you've got to be jumping around in this cave. I've got to have the feet for it. So the first thing I did was, okay, I just don't wear shoes. And it was winter. I think I showed up to the lab. I'm in the cafe, and Peter's like, "What the? Put some shoes on." I'm walking on the footpath, and I'm like, "I don't wear shoes anymore." But if that project had have gone on, that would have led to rehearsals as well with the other actors, and gone from one thing to the other. But just find something to start with, like, I don't wear shoes. And
by the way, it's funny, we spoke earlier about making choices and stuff. Then we have the other extreme, which I remember when we did the film Justin, right? You remember this, Dennis, because you were on the set. The first day, he played the top character, which was fine. We had plenty of time. We took our time. We explored choices. The second day, he was exploring the second character. It's one actor playing two different characters. But the second one, we thought there was a storm coming. And I remember it was around 9 o'clock. And Justin said to me, I don't quite have the lines down. I don't quite have my choices down. I said, listen, man, we're here all night. You know, we start at 8. We could finish at 5 in the morning. We've got plenty of time. And like 10, 15 people were showing me their phones going, there's a storm coming. And we're at the top of a building. You can see chairs being thrown everywhere by the wind. And I went up to Justin. He goes, what's my inspiration to say this line? I'm like, I don't give a shit what your inspiration is. Say the goddamn line, because there's a storm coming. And he goes, what? I want this line now. And that's how we shot half the film.
It was like, stand in your light and say your line.
Yeah, exactly. That's directing right there. It's like, but what's my motivation? Just say your fucking line. That's your motivation. We need to get it. There's a storm coming. So sometimes, with all the wonderful intentions and integrity, by the way, the storm missed us, but by then we'd packed up and gone home.
Everyone had an early night.
If you watch that film, and we didn't plan this, Justin, this character, because he's the wealthy one, you know, and he started taking his clothes off. It's a guy who's gonna, you know, it's called After Silence. Check it out, right? So he starts taking his clothes off. So we did one take with the character below, who's about to jump, talks to the character above, says, you're talking about material things. I've got tons of material things. And he takes his watch off and throws it, takes his cell phones off and throws it, takes his keys out and throws it, takes his jacket off and throws it. We did one take, and then we did a second take right away. And I said, quickly, let's go. There's a storm coming. And we did the second take. And this is the take that ended up in the film. You see Justin looking for his phone, his watch, and he has none of it. And every time I watch that film, I crack up. He's doing, I got tons of stuff, and there's nothing. So he just takes his jacket off. that's the reality of filmmaking. Sometimes you just have to go with what you have to go with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and sometimes those are the best moments
Those are
because
the best moments.
you're in the moment more than anything else. You're in the moment.
But you gotta fight for your voice. You gotta fight for your vision of that character. That's your signature. Otherwise, why hire you? I can get any banana to just say, here, say the lines and stand on this mark. That's not acting,
That's why I'll always work with Steve Arriagada, because he, like, with that caveman film, he wanted to have rehearsals with the actors, and like to start with, it was like, well, they'd be naked, and I'm like, and it was like being really careful, like going, oh, you could have a loincloth, or I'm like, no, we're cavemen, we're naked. But also I said, I kind of went, look, it's not my rehearsal process, but ideally it'd be great if these are cave people, so they're pre-verbal, it's all body language. So it'd be great to develop our relationships if we as actors never spoke, like, to each other, like never met or spoke. And we went into the rehearsals, and we had to find a relationship with each other, even as people outside the film, without speaking.
That could be awesome.
Just physically.
That would force it upon you. That would force a level of communication upon you.
Exactly. But the beautiful thing was, I went, but it's not, it's not my play. And Steve was like, if that's the way you want to do it, that's the way we're doing it. I really love your work, and if that's the way we're going to get, he's like, if that's the way we're going to get the magic, then
by the way, he's lovely. By the way, he texts me the other day. He goes, Peter, I got an actor here saying they're from the lab, and I said, give me a name. And I said, it's not from the lab. They might have come to audition or, to class once 10 years ago. I don't remember them. I said, no. He goes, oh, thanks, because I was about to give them freedom to say, do whatever you like. And he goes, if they're not lab, I'm a bit hesitant to do that. I said, not a lab. But that's what you need as a director, as an actor. That's what you need in a director. So they worry about everything else, and the lights and the camera angles and the lenses. We are in the zone. We're in the character. You know what I'm saying? That's the best actor-director relationship, and it lets us put our signature in our work. You know what I'm saying?
But if you find a director that you really trust, that is going to give you that freedom, but you have that relationship and work together, so they know you will work with them.
Correct.
On what they need to get. But because there was a very technical, like, Nathan Loves Ricky Martin is 8 shots. The whole film is 8 shots.
Wow. And
there's one really long dolly shot that's kind of technical, and they need a particular thing. So I had direction over email that I need this shot. Here's what I need.
Right.
And like a week before. And also I had communicated that if you're telling me things on the day and I'm not quite getting it, it's because I'm trying. It's not that I don't hear or I'm not trying. It's just I haven't found it yet. So
yeah,
just go for another take. And it was shot on film too, so we had limited number of takes we could do. But yeah, so I knew what he needed from just a technical cinematography point of view, and he knew that I was working to give him what he wanted, even if in a take I didn't quite get there.
Mm-hmm.
That it wasn't that I couldn't do it, I'm not listening, it's just I'm finding it. But he trusted that I would give him what he wanted. Right. I had to do it in a real way. So if you find someone like that, hang on to them. Keep working with people that you have that relationship with, because that's gold.
That's the actor-director relationship, and which I've seen many times. Scorsese working with the same group of people for the most part. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of that. What's his name? Who did Silver Linings and
David O.
Russell. Yeah, with same cast basically. 80% was the same cast. Because when you find it, it's gold. It's gold for everyone. And a lot of it comes down to basic communication, no ego.
And you kind of summed it up there. Everyone wins, don't they? Everyone wins.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone wins, and the project is a better project because of it. Right? So that's what we have to find with. But once again, you've also got to be able to deliver. I can't go to someone and say I'm going to do a triple somersault, and that's the best way to tell people, because it's no good to go, I think this, and the director goes, okay, show me, and he goes, flatline. There's nothing there.
Nothing like it. That's probably a good place to wrap it up. Did you want to plug anything, Dennis? Anything on the horizon?
Oh, not really. Just look out for a weird short horror film called Flappy that'll be coming soon. That's the film that I worked on.
Who's the director, by the way?
A guy called Darcy Conglin.
Okay, nice. Sounds like he's a lovely director to work with.
Yeah. No, he was great to work with as well.
Excellent. Okay. And that's Pete, classes, are they back on?
Classes, we're back on. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 11 or whatever time we finish. Or Tuesday morning, Saturday morning, come learn some craft as an actor.
And if you're listening to this, and maybe you go to lab and maybe you don't, but if you've got an audition or you need someone to talk to, as I said before, because you can't answer it all yourself, give this guy a call. Send him an email, okay? I'm trying to promote you here, Pete. If you don't want me to promote you, don't waste his time. He doesn't like his time wasted. And reach out to him. I'm sure he'll be able to assist you.
We'll get to you eventually. Yeah, people send me stuff around the clock, which I appreciate. And sometimes, look, I'll give you an example. Here's why I tell people, because they say, do you do private lessons? I say, no, I don't. If any of you guys send me a note, I know exactly who you are as actors. It's easy for me to say, try this. If I don't know you, then it's a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? But I do tell people, try this, imagine this. And some people are lovely. You know, they get it. You know, it's work.
And if you have any particular questions about acting, about that you would like to answer, tweet us at the Peter Kalos podcast, and next episode we'll
discuss it,
read out your question, and come up with a definitive answer. I'm sure.
I'm sure
that was sarcasm, by the way.
No,
we nothing definitive.
We know what we're doing, don't we? Yeah, we do.
We're here, aren't we?
Yeah, it's an art form, though.
Exactly, we're
it's
here.
An art form. It's not a
okay, guys.
That was another episode of the Peter Kalos podcast. I'd like to thank Pete. I'd like to thank Dennis. I'd like to thank my dogs for being quiet. And you gentlemen, I will see you on the next recording, which we are going to be doing these podcasts one per month. Maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. We're going to be doing it once per month. So plenty of times to jump on Twitter and ask us some questions. Reach out to Pete if need be. Reach out to Dennis if you need him, and leave me alone. Okay.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
Okay, see you guys. Bye.
See you guys.